Assalamu alaikum dear students. Today in this video we will study about blood. Blood is red colored liquid which circulates in our body, and blood is red because it contains a pigment that is known as hemoglobin. Blood is one of the most important component of life. Almost all organisms that possess circulatory system, they have blood. As we mentioned, the main parts of circulatory system are blood vessels, and parts of circulatory system are blood and blood vessels. And blood that is speculated to have risen from a type of cells which are responsible for nutrition. This means this blood, it is a red colored connective tissue. It is a fluid connective tissue that consists of plasma, blood cells and platelets. And what's its function is to circulate through our body, and it delivers oxygen and nutrients to various cells and tissues. It makes 8% of our body weight. An average adult that possesses about 5 to 6 liters of blood. Now let us see what are components of blood. Main components of blood are plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells and platelets. प्लाज्मा जो होता है दैट इज़ अ लिक्विड, इट इज़ आल्सो नोन एज फ्लूइड मैट्रिक्स. एंड जो रेड ब्लड सेल्स होती है, वाइट ब्लड सेल्स और प्लेटलेट्स, दे कीप फ्लोटिंग इन दिस प्लाज्मा. जो ब्लड होता है इट इज़ अ लिक्विड और फ्लूइड मैट्रिक्स दैट इज़ नोन एज प्लाज्मा. जो लिक्विड पार्ट ऑफ ब्लड होता है दैट इज़ नोन एज प्लाज्मा, और जिसमें होती है रेड ब्लड सेल्स, वाइट ब्लड सेल्स और प्लेटलेट्स. Now this means if we will describe all the four components of blood, you will see there are four components of blood. First is plasma, you remember that's liquid part of blood. And plasma, that is colorless because it consists mainly of water with many substances dissolved in it. And plasma जो है इसमें 90% of water होता है, और इसमें होता है dissolved substances such as proteins होते हैं इसमें, digested fat होता है इसमें, डाइजेस्टेड फूड होता है इसमें, वेस्ट प्रोडक्ट्स होते हैं इसमें, हार्मोन्स होते हैं इसमें. और जो प्लाज्मा की फंक्शन है, इट कैरीज all these dissolved substances from one part of body to another in our body. And what are red blood cells? Red blood cells, they are also known as erythrocytes. Red blood cells, they are red in color due to presence of a pigment that is known as hemoglobin. Why red blood cells are red? Due to presence of hemoglobin. And red blood cells, they are carriers of oxygen. They are carriers of oxygen. And जो red blood cells हैं, they are biconcave cells and they contain hemoglobin, and due to presence of hemoglobin they are red in color. And function of hemoglobin performs a very important function. It carries oxygen from lungs to body tissues. And जो hemoglobin होता है, it also carries some of the carbon dioxide from body tissues to the lungs, as we discussed in respiration. जो रेड ब्लड सेल्स हैं, दे आर सर्कुलर इन शेप, और वी कैन से दे आर बाइकनकेव cells. And red blood cells, they do not have a nuclei. Red blood cells have to be made very quickly because they do not live for very long. This means जो रेड ब्लड सेल्स इनका जो लाइफ स्पैन होता है वो बहुत कम होता है. Each red blood cell that lives for about 4 months and then dies. This means they have a short life because they do not have a nuclei. They do not have a nucleus. Or it has been estimated that about 3 millions of red blood cells die every day. But 4 times the number are made in the bone marrow every day. This means red blood cells, they are having a short lifespan, but they are made very quickly, and they are made in bone marrow. Or red blood cells, They are red due to presence of a pigment that is known as hemoglobin, and hemoglobin, which is a transport molecule and also a pigment. It due to this hemoglobin, it is red in color. Red blood cells are red in color, or we can say blood is red in color, and it also helps in carrying oxygen from lungs to all cells of our body. These are red blood cells. You can see they are circular, or we can say biconcave in shape. They contain cytoplasm in which there is hemoglobin. Second type of cells are WBCs, or white blood cells. White blood cells are responsible for fighting foreign pathogens such as bacteria, virus, fungi that enters into our body. This means white blood cells की क्या function है? They protect us from disease. They help to fight germs. They help to fight other foreign bodies, and some white blood cells can eat up the germs like bacteria which cause disease, and they circulate throughout our body and originate from the bone marrow. White blood cells, they also originate from the bone marrow, and white blood cells, they are called soldiers of our body because they protect the body from the attack of disease causing germs and other foreign material. White blood cells are of many types, like leukocytes. Leukocytes are colorless blood cells. They are colorless because they are devoid of hemoglobin. They do not contain hemoglobin. And leukocytes can be further classified as granulocytes and agranulocytes. WBCs जो है, they mainly contribute to immunity and defense mechanism in our body. And these white blood cells, they have nucleus, and the shape जो है nucleus की, that is different in different types of white blood cells. और white blood cells की जो count है, that is much smaller in number than red blood cells. These are some white blood cells: monocyte, eosinophil, basophil, lymphocytes, neutrophil. These are some of the white blood cells, and remember, these white blood cells are either spherical in shape or irregular in shape. And is इनकी क्या function है? They help our body to fight against infection. Next are platelets. What are platelets? They are tiny fragments of special cells that are formed in bone marrow. These are tiny disc-shaped cells that regulate blood flow when any part of body is damaged, thereby aiding in fast recovery through clotting of blood. This means platelets जो है, they do not have a nucleus. They help in coagulation of blood. When there is any cut or wound in our body, it is platelets which help in coagulation of blood, which help us stop blood during any cut or wound. For example, when a cut or wound starts bleeding, the platelets help the blood to clot the blood. How? It makes the blood semi-solid, due to which further bleeding stops. This means, and these platelets, they are also made in the bone marrow of the cells. This means all the blood cells, whether red blood cells, white blood cells, or platelets, they are all made in the bone marrow from the cells that are known as stem cells. And platelets, they derive its oxygen requirement directly from the cold oxygen rich water where it, for example, the only vertebrate without red blood cell is the crocodile ice fish. All vertebrates are having red blood cells, but there is exception. Crocodile ice fish है, it does not have a red blood cells. It derives its, then how it derives its oxygen, as it does not contain red blood cells, it derives its oxygen from cold oxygen rich water where it lives. Remember it. Now we will see what are functions of blood. Functions of blood has three main functions in our body, and that is transport of substance like respiratory gas, oxygen and carbon dioxide, digested food, or nutrients, waste products, hormones, enzymes, ions from one part of body to the other. It helps in protection against disease. It also helps in regulation of body temperature. As I mentioned, blood is a fluid connective tissue. It composed of 55% of plasma and 45% formed elements including WBCs, RBCs and platelets. Since these living cells are suspended in plasma, blood is known as fluid connective tissue. And first, its function, it provides oxygen to the cells. How it provides oxygen to the cells? Blood it absorbs oxygen from the lungs and it carries oxygen from lungs to different cells of the body, and it also carries carbon dioxide from the body cells to the lungs for breathing out. This means first function, you remember, blood carries oxygen from the lungs to the different parts of the body, and when respiration takes place in our body cells, carbon dioxide is produced, and it is blood that carries that carbon dioxide from body cells to the lungs for breathing out. Second is transports hormones and nutrients. Blood carries digested food from small intestines to all parts of our body. Understand? And it carries hormones from endocrine system to different organs of the body where they are needed. And blood carries a waste product that is called urea from liver to the kidneys for excretion in urine. Got it? These are the functions of blood. And blood की जो function, it also protects our body from infection. How? This is because जो white blood cells होते हैं in our blood, they kills the bacteria and other germs which cause the disease. And blood also helps to maintain internal body temperature, that is known as homostats. Homostats, that is, and when blood helps to maintain the internal body temperature. How? By absorbing or releasing heat. When blood vessels react to outside organisms and change the internal temperature, they expand and contract. This moves the blood and heat closer to or away from the skin surface. That is known as homostats. This means blood की और एक function है, it helps to maintain the internal body temperature. And जो blood capillaries होते in our skin है में, they help to keep our body temperature constant at 37 degrees Celsius. These are the functions of blood. This means first function, blood carries oxygen from lungs to the different parts of the body. It carries carbon dioxide from bodies to the lungs for breathing out. Blood carries digested food from small intestines to different parts of our body. Blood carries hormones from endocrine system to different organs of our body where they are needed. Blood carries it also helps in transport of waste to the kidney and liver. How? It carries a waste protein called urea from the liver to the kidneys for excretion in urine. Blood protects our body from disease. This is because blood has a protection of a body against pathogens due to presence of white blood cells in our blood. Okay? Our blood helps to maintain body temperature. That was all about blood. Thank you.